everyone, and welcome to this edition of Cooking with Chef Jacques. Today we are going to be making French salad dressing. The ingredients that we're going to use are grapeseed oil. I prefer grapeseed oil over olive oil because grapeseed oil does not congeal in the refrigerator where olive oil does. We're going to be using red wine vinegar. I'm using Heinz here, but you can just as easily choose red wine vinegar that you like. Some people prefer white wine vinegar. I like the red. We're going to be using some chopped olives, chopped green olives in it. We're going to be using Worcestershire sauce. That's going to help us give it an interesting flavor. And most recipes call for ketchup or tomato sauce or tomato paste. We're going to be using Heinz cocktail sauce and Heinz chili sauce. This will give us a little bit of an interesting flavor and perhaps something that you and your friends haven't tasted before. We're also going to be using a shallot. What's nice about a shallot is it has the flavor of an onion, but you can have one shallot, chop it up, and that's enough as an example for this recipe. Where if you substitute an onion, you'll have a large part of the onion left over, which may end up going in your refrigerator and smelling up your refrigerator. So shallots are a great substitute. We're also going to be using some chicken base. I like this particular chicken base. It's very, very tasty, and it'll give your salad dressing more interest. What we want to do is we want to excite the palate. We want to create tastes and sensations that are complex and that people have to figure out. We want them to be excited by what they're eating. Additionally, for our seasoning, we're going to be using Coleman's dry mustard. This is important to use dry mustard in this recipe. It gives it a little bit of a kick that, again, you don't get with regular mustard. We're also going to be using tarragon, celery seed, and we're going to use Mighty Salty's Magic seasoning salt. The tools that we're going to need for this are measuring spoons, measuring cup, spatula, wire whisk, and a knife. So let's begin. So the first thing we are doing here is we are getting our grapeseed oil, and we're going to put our herbs in there, and we're going to let that those flavors extract from the herbs into the grapeseed oil. So we've got our tarragon here, and we're going to put a tablespoon of tarragon in our oil. Next, we're going to take our celery seed, and we are using, on our celery seed, we're using 1 teaspoon of celery seed, and we're going to put that in there. And we're going to let those flavors just kind of blend in a little bit and let them infuse into the oil while we're making this. So we'll just give that a little stir. Let that be there. So we're going to set that aside. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take our base here, and we're going to take a tablespoon of chicken base, and we're going to put that in the bottom of our bowl. I always use a spatula because you get everything off of that spoon, and it makes it easy to clean as well. You don't have any waste, so you get all that in there. We don't want to miss any of that flavor. Set that aside. Now, in this mixture, we're going to take our Coleman's dry mustard, and we're going to put a teaspoon of dry mustard in there. So it's going to be a level teaspoon, and this adds quite a bit of zip to your sauce. That goes in there. Now we put in our cocktail sauce. So we've got 1/4 cup of cocktail sauce, And we're going to take 1/4 cup of chili sauce. And we're going to mix that in here. We want to make sure we get all the lumps out. We don't want to have a lumpy sauce here where we find lumps of chicken base or lumps of dried mustard in our salad dressing. Now we're going to mix that in there a little bit. We're going to put our Worcestershire sauce in. Our Worcestershire sauce, we're going to use 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. And that goes in there. Worcestershire sauce, actually they came up with that in England over 100 years ago. I don't know who came up with it, but I sure am glad they did. So we're going to mix this up a little bit. We want to just look at it and see if we see any lumps of dry mustard or anything else. We want to make sure we've gotten everything out there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put in our shallot. We're going to chop that up, and we're going to put in our chopped olives as well. So we're using this shallot. We're just going to cut it in half, and we're going to cut it into very fine pieces. Now you can put this in a little grinder, a food grinder if you wish. I've been doing this for years, so I'm pretty fast at it, pretty proficient at it. Don't worry if you're not that fast. They're not quite sure what it is that makes it so good, but they know there's something about it that is unique and delicious. That's the key, is delicious. So, in we go into our bowl. Mix it up just a little bit. And now we want to use our magic seasoning salt. This is magic seasoning salt by Mighty Salty. Very good, very tasty. Lots of delicious ingredients, and really makes your dishes taste good. All right, so we can use our containers over. You don't need to rinse this. This is what we had our chili sauce and our cocktail sauce in. What we want is we want 1/2 cup of vinegar. So there's our 1/2 cup of red wine vinegar, and we're going to put that in here. And now we're going to add our oil with our tarragon and our celery seed in it. We're just going to kind of slowly pour this in, and we're going to lightly whisk it as we put it in. And if you'll notice, we're letting it blend a little bit as we go. What we'd like is we'd like something that's as homogeneous as possible. I want to make sure we get all of our seasoning out of this and into our dressing. And there we are. So now we're going to have a little taste of this. We're going to see just exactly how it turned out. We have our tasting spoon and our tasting bowl. So we'll just take a little bit out, put it in there, take a taste. Now what we have to do when we make a dish is we have to correct for seasoning when we're finished. That's good. That's good. Now the reason we correct for seasoning is every day your body changes. So what we want to do when we make a dish is we always want to correct for seasoning at the end. This one is perfect. I'm going to have this tonight on some baby arugula and fresh tomatoes. This will last in the refrigerator for 2-3 weeks, could be more, unless we eat it all before then. Back now, I've gotten some arugula and fresh garden tomatoes. That's baby arugula. And we have our French dressing, which we made a few moments ago. And this dressing, the longer it sits, the tastier it's going to get. Sometimes they call that the marrying of the flavors. So feel free to use this for 2 weeks, even up to 3 weeks. It'll last for a very long time in your refrigerator, and the flavors will blend together and become more complex as you use it. The salad, I'm just going to have baby arugula and tomatoes this evening. However, this salad would be great with shrimp. You could use a whitefish, or you could use crab meat. Any of those would be delicious with this dressing. You could also substitute chicken if you wanted to have a chicken salad, something that's nutritious and not real heavy, especially in the warmer weather. You could also use this with sliced beef if you wanted to have that. So we're going to take our salad dressing and we're going to mix it up just a little bit, make sure that the oil and the vinegar are blended together, and we're going to put some on our salad here, and then we're going to toss it. And what we're doing is we want to make sure that all of the leaves are coated with the salad dressing. That's where we want to have flavor in every single bite. Arugula tends to be a little bit of a bitter herb, which is a nice complement for this salad. You could also use fresh watercress. You could use Belgian endive. You could use regular endive. You could use escarole. Any of those greens are delicious with it. Let's just have a taste here and see how it turned out. The moment of truth. That is delicious. Definitely a home run. Serve this to your family tonight. They'll really appreciate it. Thanks, bon appetit, and we'll see you next time.